Welcome, everyone, to episode 27 of Spiritual Conversations. My name is Candice Sanderson, and my friend here.
I'm Cari Palmer.
And we want to welcome you. We know it's 2021. It's hard to believe this year has come.
Last year was 6 years long, that's why.
Right. And this one we have some challenges, but it's all a matter of working through what we have. And that brings up a point. When you look at something that occurs in your lifetime, we have a certain perspective, but then time has a way of uncovering the truth or changing things. And you can look at the very same thing a week later, a month later, maybe years later, and you get a totally different picture. Now, before we actually started recording, Cari and I were having this just loose conversation about how things have changed. And you mentioned Tom Campbell, who is a physicist. He has a wonderful book called My Big Toe, Theory of Everything. And he was one of the original explorers with Monroe Institute. So Cari, go ahead and take it away. Let's talk about Tom, and I'll talk about Shirley.
So, so I have been listening to a lot of it. He's got like thousands of YouTube videos. And so today I was puttering around and I found one that was recently made. And I'm just kind of listening to it. I just love, it's fascinating. You hear different takes on it all the time. And his theory, just in a nutshell, is that consciousness is the computer and we're all living in a virtual reality. That, our consciousness is like the puppet master. And I love listening to him. I get into it. It's like so much he says I totally resonate with, but it just reminded me today as I was just puttering around. I remember before the spirituality word came into my vocabulary, I was, reading some stuff. And I just remember hearing this theory, and I don't know if it was even Tom Campbell, saying how we are living in a virtual reality. And I'm like going, I just remember being like, are you out of your mind? I mean, it was like so beyond left field of where I could possibly wrap my brain. And I thought those people are crazy. Now I know what everybody thinks about me. Anyway, but it was like, I remembered so clearly how I just heard a little blurb about that concept. And where we are, I was like, there's no possible way this could be a thing. Therefore, it's not real. Those people are cuckoo. And I went on. And now it's like when I hear all this stuff with Tom, I visualize it. I can see it. I totally get it. I understand it. I wasn't ready back then. I couldn't get it. But now it's like all that stuff that I thought was so out there, I'm part of that cuckoo universe and I love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But
yeah, I love it. And it is all about changing your perspective. And so when Cari mentioned that about Tom Campbell and now she embraces it, I gave her this example. Many, many years ago, I read one of Shirley MacLaine's book. I think it was Out on a Limb. And I was just, starting my journey on being spiritual. So I thought, okay, I'll read this. And I just couldn't finish it. She was talking about chakras, which I didn't even know what it was. I remember there was a scene in the book. She's talking about she's taking a bubble bath and she gets these candles out and the candles match the color of the chakras. And it's like, I just thought, this is absolutely nuts. This lady, she's not living on this planet. I closed the book, put it away. And years later, 5 years, 10 years, I have no idea. I saw the book. I picked it up, Cari, and started reading it. And I remembered as I was like repulsed by it. I started reading it. And it's like, oh, right. Yeah. By this time, I certainly knew what chakras were. And I certainly knew that there were colors associated with them and even, symbols. And I'm reading and reading. I think I read the whole book in one setting. If not, it was like over, just two settings because I resonated with it so much. This made perfect sense. So we have the same sort of situation, looking at something when it's novel, when it's something we haven't had experience with. The first thing we do is we default to what our brain tells us, to what our training has been.
What our beliefs from childhood, programming.
Exactly. It's exactly programming. And we think that our beliefs are not beliefs, but that they're truths,
Hmm.
because that's all we know. And when
Yeah.
something new comes along, it's like, that can't be true. Learning to look at something with a different set of lenses, or maybe not even looking at it and judging it, but just being open to it
Yeah.
can
Yes,
make
that's
such a
the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, and Tom does say one thing. I love Tom Campbell because he says, throw every belief you've ever had completely out the window and approach everything as a skeptic. Everything, but approach it. Look into it, check into it, feel it, touch it, see what it is. And not just say, no, that can't be, because I know my mom said it couldn't. But yeah, it's that perspective is everything, man, from where we are. So I just thought about this too. This is totally out of context, but I want to bring up a book that I don't know if I've even talked to you about, Candace, at this point. And this is a book that my friend Connie, who she
yes.
recommended to me a long time ago. And she said it's only 78 pages. I'm like, bring it. I'm always open to anything. This book was written by this woman in the 1920s. This woman had no fear about having her name on her book, because I've seen other books back then that they were like anonymous. They didn't want to say who they
Right.
were that wrote the cuckoo stuff. And it's Florence Shin, the complete works of Florence Shin. And
Oh,
in
and
this book,
we'll put that in the description below for
yes,
people.
definitely. So this one I actually had originally the first book, which is just the game of life and how to play it is what it's called. But then I got the complete works and I haven't finished reading all that yet. This woman in the 1920s is talking about manifestation. If she was a master manifester and she could master manifest things for other people, she had people come in for sessions and they would say, I need $3,500 and I need it soon. So she told them the recipe of the words to say, the way to feel, and then
Wow.
amazingly, it's like this stuff appeared for these people every time. And it's like, so
Fascinating.
most
Fascinating.
people, yeah, I couldn't have read this book 10 years ago and thought, and been like, oh, this lady was nuts back in the 20s. In my gateway class through the Monroe Institute, we have our Zoom call that we do. And I recommended this book to the group, as well as your books. And one of the guys came back to me just a couple of weeks ago and he said, I want to thank you so much, because he works with people in addiction. And
Mhm.
he gave this book to one of the guys in one of the addicts. And the guy said, you just saved my life. This book,
Wow.
single 78 pages, this guy is off drugs. He's totally
Wow.
changed. It's like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So yeah, I definitely want to
E-
get this book out to
ex-
everybody.
exactly. And once you open up to something new coming in, don't judge it. I mean, what you said about Tom Campbell, be a skeptic. Don't just believe it. Well, what I found what worked with me is no judgment whatsoever when it comes in. Don't embrace it, don't reject it. Just let that come through you and then take a look at it later. Use your heart for discernment. Does it feel right? Does it sit well with you? And just listen to your inner guidance. This woman who wrote the book you're talking about, wow, was she ever ahead of her time?
Yes. So, I mean, it's not like this is new, people. It's just, we've all been so closed and not as open. I don't know what it is about the era, but we're all so much more accepting. You can find there's an entire channel, Gaia, dedicated to spirituality. So the world has become a
Right.
different place completely. But yeah, this woman, she was ballsy back then for sure.
We're
But
absolutely.
mhm,
Well, good for her, and I'm glad that you found her. I can't wait to read her. And what we're finding with 2021 and as life goes on, things are changing. We are in the middle of an evolutionary process that Mother Earth is going through. So we're going to be more open than what we used to be. And what that means is information will come to us, maybe in different ways than it has before, like that book came to you, but instead of tossing it aside or ignoring it, we're going to be open to things like this. And Carrie, it's not just for you, it's not just for me, it's for everyone out there.
yes.
We have this beautiful opportunity to actually grow from some of the challenges that we see around us. It's time for us to inventory, what do we want to keep and what do we want to get rid of. I mentioned last week that what I'm planning on doing is keeping this mantra of kindness matters. And I'm going to try to use that mantra throughout the rest of my life, day
I
by
love it.
day, starting, actually
Your
starting
eyes
few
open in
months.
the morning, first thing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because we can't just look around and see what is out there that disrupts us. No, we need to look at what uplifts us. So
Yes.
let us choose light. Let us choose like reading that book that talks about manifestation because
Yes.
it's true. We do manifest our lives.
Yes.
It's one thought at a time because thought is nothing but energy.
Yep. One thought, one feeling at a time directs the way your life goes. You can make the decision. Do I want a good life or a bad life? Simple. It truly is that simple.
Right. The choice is ours to make. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And until next time, remember, we are all spiritual beings. We are all energy beings. We are so
Yes.
much more than our physical bodies and
So
use
much.
so much more. So use the energy that you have in a positive way and bring more light into your life.
Thank you all for watching. We really do appreciate you huge.
Yes, we do. Thank you and bye.